you're choosing whatever, go for that. Don't just go based off what the news outlets say. Do your own background research. Do your own little bit of digging here and there.
Right, and go beyond just looking at their campaign website.
Exactly, especially if you're going to be very politically active and you're going to be in the whereabouts.
You need to be more well-versed in everything,
exactly.
not just one side. So real quick, before we move on to the big news of the week, I wanted to ask, I didn't put this down in the show notes because I wanted to try to catch you off guard with it.
Okay.
In high school, you were not, I think it's fair to say you were not attuned to what was going on in the political world or really the news world,
Heck
right?
No.
All right.
Heck no.
Now you're going into your junior year next year.
Mm-hmm.
At what point, or was there some event that kind of forced you or made you feel like you needed to be more well-informed or made you want to be more well-informed? Because now, I mean, in the past week, we've talked about politics. We've talked about investing. You gave me tips on starting investing.
Oh, yeah.
So you've become like almost infinitely more well-versed than you were in high school. Or even like a year ago, 2 years ago.
College is crazy. Well, I can give all that thanks to, honestly, being involved in college. So, my freshman year of college in spring, I was offered a position as campus activities board, right?
Mm-hmm.
So through that, I got way more involved in school and just sitting down with different students and getting a whole different diversification of people's backgrounds. I have like so many Brazilian friends and friends from the Caribbean. So I saw a different environment, and which is way more than I saw in high school in Naples, because in Naples you get your
Naples is
regular.
A bubble.
Exactly, it's a bubble. So coming to college, I got really involved, and I basically became a little bit more aware. I started going to different things. I was part of a couple of different clubs here. So I got involved with this Earth Studies Association, basically. And I went to a couple of different river keeping forums, Q&A forums with St. John River. And my professor, basically, he was a big advocate. He really didn't like Trump, right? So he was a big advocate for, for Bernie.
Okay.
Because he somewhat knew, like, he didn't predict it, but he could see the whole, Trump basically just bringing his big investments and his big business ideas into the EPA and all this, and cutting all these different types of programs that we have established for the environment. So I got really involved with them, and that made me want to just get more involved in general with everything. So I started reading up on politics, I started reading up on investments, I started reading up on basically everything. And recently, in this humanities class I've been taking, they talk about the Renaissance, right? And they talk about what sparked up these people to want to get more knowledge, basically. And if you really look into it, before the Renaissance, it was the Dark Ages. So there was a bunch of medieval people. There was kings, peasants, and like nobles and knights. And basically these peasants were at the bottom, and they were just slaving away for thousands of years to these kings, and they weren't promised anything but their lives, basically. So those peasants, they basically became infuriated, and those peasants were the people. They were the majority of the people, because there weren't too many kings or noblemen or anything like that. They basically they got tired of it. So I look myself as one of those people, and I'm tired of it. I got tired of it, right? So I started investing in myself, and really, I think wealth is power, and knowledge is wealth, and it all comes full circle, really. So that's where I got this spark of interest in all these areas, really.
That's pretty cool. We never talked about that before. I just started wondering the past couple of days.
No,
that's
getting involved
good.
you should definitely get involved wherever you go. If you go to a small college or a big college, whatever you do, get involved. There's definitely some clubs or organizations out there for you to get yourself in and meet some cool people and share some cool ideas, really.
All right, well, there we go. There's your little PSA for the dozens of people that listen to this. So now we can actually get into the important stuff.
Yeah, go for it.
Obviously, we touched on Comey testifying a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of his testimony, it came out that he orchestrated a leak of his memos. He gave a memo to I want to say Columbia law professor.
Yes.
Who then passed it on to the media.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about him leaking the memo? Do you think that's something he doesn't have a right to leak, or because it's his memo and his thoughts, he's able to leak that even after being ousted as FBI director?
Well, I think he leaked that after he was fired.
Right.
Right? So it's more of a publicity stunt than anything. I wouldn't really call it a leak, to be honest with you. I would call it more of because, all right, what's a leak? In your opinion, what is a leak?
Well, that would be the other big story of the week. Reality winner, which I still don't understand how that's a real name.
Yeah, I thought that was like
leak. No, yeah, it took me a couple hours to realize it. Released this person, reality winner.
Yeah, she released
copied an NSA report on Russian hacking, and then passed it on to The Intercept, which then published it a redacted version of it.
Right.
That's
leak. Basically, yeah, that's a leak.
That's a huge leak. I don't know. I want to get into that a little later, but that's a leak. That's what I would define as a leak.
Okay, so you define a leak. Classified information, right?
Right.
So,
obviously this isn't classified.
Exactly. So I wouldn't really call it a leak to begin with. I would call it more of a publicity stunt that he did. That Comey went out and did.
Right. Just so how do you feel about that?
I think it's strategic, and I wouldn't necessarily commend him for it, but I'd give him somewhat props because he strategically did that, knowing that he would get a Senate Council meeting with the Senate Intelligence Council.
Committee, right.
Right. So it's hard to commend him, right? But at the same time, he's very smart for doing that, right? So,
right. It helps him, and as a private citizen, he has nowhere near the power as the FBI director.
Exactly. He wasn't going to get anywhere with just... Sometimes you can't stay quiet, right? Sometimes you can't just look the other way. Like, you have to put your foot down. There has to be a point where all this pressure is going to come down to you and you have to put your foot down, right? So right, I think it was a very... Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
He said in his testimony that he was disheartened by the lies that he knew were coming from the White House, specifically the lies about him and his control over the FBI, and he felt that Trump would definitely end up lying about their interactions, specifically regarding the investigations into Trump himself, into Michael Flynn, his campaign, all of that. So I'm kind of with you. I don't know if it's a leak. I don't know if he should be commended for it because it is a big publicity stunt.
Right.
But at the same time, it directly led to more intense scrutiny. It in part led to the appointment of a special counsel, which I think is good. So it may not be a leak. It may be a publicity stunt, something he felt needed to be out in the open. But I liked it. I feel like it's served its purpose and it's pushed it forward. It's pushed the investigation forward. Exactly.
That was the whole purpose of it, right?
Right.
So I think it's served its purpose to the full extent. But
so what do you think about... Sorry.
Wait. Where was I going with that? So that's the other thing with it, though. A lot of people are... The whole memo thing, right? A lot of people are looking at him and saying, well, if you wrote down all these memos for Trump, why are you outing him out like that? Why didn't you write down memos for Bill Clinton and the whole Bill Clinton thing? And he basically said the nature of Trump and like the vibe he got with him basically led him to write down all these memos, right? So I understand the fact that all these people are questioning him why he didn't do it with all these other presidents, right? But at the same time, it's like a joke that you haven't been there for, right? So, do you understand what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, like no, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it that way.
If you weren't there, like, you don't get it. So, I think you have to put yourself in Comey's shoes sometimes too.
Right, and for all that we know, he may have, he's a documented note taker of his conversations with people as an FBI agent.
Right, exactly.
And for all we know, he may have pages and pages of memos from conversations with Bill Clinton, Loretta Lynch, Obama, President Bush, because he's been around a long time. But they haven't, a situation hasn't come up where he needs to release it, or the memos themselves haven't come under scrutiny.
Right, exactly.
So how do you feel about, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. Go.
How do you feel about Comey being that worried that Trump would twist his firing and lie about him? That Comey was that fearful of that happening?
Pretty alarming, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Being who he is and having his background and his credentials, I think it's pretty alarming. It says a lot about him.
Yeah,
if you watch the testimony, he seems like just from the testimony, this is all from the testimony that I'm gathering, he seems like a pretty genuine guy.
Right, he seems like a straight shooter.
Exactly. He seems like he gets down to the point and there's no
like an ulterior motive. There's nothing under the surface.
Exactly. There's no gray middle right there, right?
Right.
He's been serving his country, so it's honestly pretty alarming.
Right, I agree.
There's some red flags.
So moving on to the other big story of the week, touched on it earlier also, the NSA leak from Reality Winner. First of all, why, if your last name is Winner, why are you considering Reality, regardless, why are you considering Reality as a first name? Especially when your last name is Winner. Well, she actually goes by a different name. Oh, does she?
Her Twitter name is Sarah Winner.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've only seen her referred to as Reality Winner.
Yeah, her.
All right, well that makes it a lot better.
Well, it's probably her government name, right? But she goes probably by Sarah.
She has a nickname.
Yeah,
you definitely need a nickname to have.
Yeah, honestly, when I read
Winner.
that, I thought that no joke. I thought that a person in Russia had won a reality game TV show, and then he went on and used that to leak stuff. That's honestly what I thought. I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. These Russians are gonna fucking behead this guy.
Yeah, the first article I read, I was looking at it like, what the hell? Why are we quoting, or why are we concerned about reality TV winners? They confused the hell out of me for a while.
Yeah, that was funny.
So
but if you look at her Twitter, she has a bunch of anti-Trump tweets and anti-Trump things. It's pretty funny, actually.
Right, I saw that, and her mom claimed that she was not very political.
Yeah, that she wasn't going to go picket or protest, really.
Right, she was a Bernie supporter, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I thought I saw that, right. Do you think that has any effect on how she'll be...
The whole leak?
Right, the whole leak. Do you think that changes the situation?
No, I think it's still a leak. It's still, I forgot what. She violated the Espionage Act, I think.
Right.
So
leaking classified material.
Yeah, so I think she's still breaking the law, you know? So I don't view her differently as, I mean, I can maybe see some motive behind it, right?
Right.
But as far as the crime she committed, it's still the same crime. That doesn't change.
Right. Now,
the only thing that changes are her motives. Really.
Do you think that the way she will be handled in court will be different? Has this become, because of her her political leanings that she's made public, do you think that kind of changes the situation? Because if the Trump administration really pushes for a harsh penalty
Mm-hmm.
it'll look like political payback.
Right. It would.
If they don't push